Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Train Simulator Classic, aka Railworks. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Union Pacific DD35 by DTM. This pack was released in 2016. No, this is not a pack that I picked up during the sale, but about 2/3 of the stuff I picked up during the big autumn sale are notorious out-of-memory error causers, and as such I have not been able to make a video. Such is life. A normal day with train sim, unfortunately. I know, that would make too much sense for that to ever get addressed, but not what we're talking about today. So, these monstrosities were ordered by Union Pacific originally as a set, and the set did not include the cab units, so these would come later. The original DD35 was just the B units here, so they are not called DD35A and B. It is just a DD35 and a DD35A. The original 35s were a cabless booster that was in essence two GP35s mashed onto one frame, and each unit drives this single set of trucks here. So they were designed in 1963, pushed out about 5,000 horsepower. In essence, UP was asking for a 15,000 horsepower 3-unit locomotive set to not only replace their turbine units, but to bring a new generation of diesel locomotives to their rails and then put them into use. That is quoted from Wikipedia. Take it with a grain of salt. But as I said, in essence, they started out as these cabless booster units, which are just two GP35 prime movers and electrical systems slapped onto one long rigid frame, and each unit drives its own truck. And then these would be sandwiched by GB35s. So the GB35 would still be the cabbed power unit. And then later on, when is it, around about 1935-ish? Or 35. 1965, the A units were built. It is quite literally just this locomotive right here with a cab. Nothing else really special. Anything else that's wild and requiring us to go over it? Cab of a GP35 is fitted to the front end of the A units. Fuel tank beneath was lengthened. Let's look at it. The center pass-through walkway was offset a little to the rear because of the single cab. I guess you can kind of, if you count that nose, it's a little bit hard to tell. Another difference was the DD35s were fitted with the new flared radiator section EMD was testing on its EMD 645 engine demonstrators. These locomotives were actually very unreliable at first. If I remember right, they had like massive issues with electrical systems. don't remember entirely what the big issues were, but these were maybe I should go back to Wikipedia. I don't leave it open while I'm sitting here doing these videos, but I just write out the notes and then call it cool. But if I remember right, it was something about sand getting into the electrical systems. It was something really wacky. But initially, these things were very much unreliable and maintenance heavy. But later on, those issues were resolved, and they proved to be fairly decent locomotives. But they weren't decent enough to save. Obviously, there's not a single DD35 that was saved from the scrapper. All DD35As and cabless boosters were scrapped. Yeah. To my knowledge, no other railroads bought any cabbed units, but Southern Pacific ended up with a few B unit or cabless boosters. I don't remember how many. There is actually a mod, a repaint, reskin for the Southern Pacific units. I don't believe Southern Pacific really cared much for them, and as such did not further go down the trail of interest with these. But anywho, let's look at what do all we get in the pack. So you're going to end up with the DD35A cabbed unit, of course. You end up with the cabless booster, the original unit, and of course a non-drivered variant, and then a GB35 with driver and non-driver variants, and the usual array of DTM rolling stock, a box car, a flat car with various loads, a hopper, a gondola, and a caboose. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the rolling stock. If you were looking forward to it, I'm sorry, but there's nothing new with these. I know I've gone over pretty much every single one of these cars. If I've done a DTM video, I've definitely gone over the box car, because that box car is included in every single flippin' DTM pack like it's new. It's not new. There's nothing special about that one. And then these hoppers are all over every flippin' DTM pack. They're just reskinned 1,000 times over. Might go over the caboose. It's a little bit different. Truth be told, the old Kuju hoppers don't look laughably better or laughably worse than these. So there's no reason to go over a lot of this rolling stock. They're old. They're very old. Very old. So anyway, nobody cares about that anyway. Everybody wants to see the locomotives. Now, there is a noticeably different level of quality between the two. You can see that in the trucks alone. So, it's going to be a bit of an entertaining review. But, right off the bat, I can't stand the coupler. It's a square. As I said, it's about 2016, so this is definitely an old pack by now. So there are some things that are a bit to be expected for the time period, but there are other things that even back then were kind of one of the things are these blasted 2D panel latches. They've never looked good, and they still don't look good, and they're still being used, which drives me insane. These suck. I mean, they're very noticeably different. The color is very, very different, so they stand out like a very sore thumb. And they're flat. They're hideous. They're low res. I don't like them. I've never liked them. Overall texturing, it does look really, really bland too. Lettering is very blurry. This chain is awful. But the model shape itself looks pretty decent. You know, one of those credits where it's due. Model shape looks decent. I don't like the diamond plating. I've never liked DTM plating. The DTM diamond plating has never looked good. Now, credit where it's due. One of the things that oftentimes gets missed are the gauges and fuel levels for the fuel tanks, which are present here. They're a bit low res, but they're not something that you'll be up on very often, so something I can kind of overlook. Overall, they're pretty decently modeled. The trucks, don't like the trucks. They're very, very noticeably like white. Very noticeably white. Like, look at this. Look at the difference. It's a perfect comparison here. I don't understand the wildly different texturing. It just doesn't look good. Like, this looks better than this. It's my opinion. Everybody's got an opinion. That looks awful. And the trucks overall, they're very low res. They're very blurry, very splotchy. They don't look horrid per se. They are, you know, definitely unique. They're unique to the DD35, and with none existing today, I will give that credit. It is hard to expect to model these right. But it just so noticeably bright. And it just they seem like they're missing stuff. Seems like a lot of stuff is missing on these, honestly. I mean, actually, I can confirm a lot of stuff is missing on these. Notice how none of the brake piping exists at all. I mean, that's something that you can see in quite literally every single one of these pictures. All you got to do is Google a DD35A, and there's plenty of side photos. None of the brake piping is present on these. None of the sand piping is present on these. They're very bare. Like, it's very wrong. And I know I'm poking a lot on the trucks, but because the trucks are so very, very bright, it's very, very noticeable. There should be an EMD logo right there, and you can barely see the blurriness there. I mean, they're not good. They're really not. Like I said, I get that there are none existing to go off of, but there's reasonably good side shot photos of these all over Google to get an idea what should and shouldn't be here, and there's quite a bit that's not here. So, unique trucks are not good. Texturing, not a fan. Overall model has a lot of typical DTM things, like the poor radiator vents here that are all very, very thin and flat. Fans don't look half bad. I did choose a horrible scenario to really see the smoke or the exhaust, so granted, at least it's not just pouring black smoke like some do, but I did choose cloudy day to do this scenario, and as you can see, it's very hard to see the exhaust. But again, not horrible. not the worst. Like I said, we're trying to look at it in the eyes of 2016, not 2023. I hate these latches. They do not look good. Of course, the walkthrough right here. See, I told these latches. Like, there's no effort to even make them look kind of blended in here. They're very noticeably there and very noticeably bright. I don't understand that. Coloring looks decent. Coloring looks right. Overall, I mean, it looks very, very baked. If you look at one of these relatively freshly painted, the gray looks a lot darker. The yellow's more of a noticeable yellow, not a faded yellow. I don't know, I nitpick a lot, but it's the things that you notice. So, very, very blurry F. Now the air horn model actually looks pretty decent. The air horn looks pretty decent. You can see right through the beacon. There's no actual like little beacon in there. It's kind of entertaining. It's nothing wildly necessary. It's just kind of one of those things that you catch onto the cabless booster. So this obviously is not going to be wildly different. They are the same basic locomotive, but as I noted earlier, there are a couple changes, such as the flared radiator covers for the dynamics, the flared dynamic brake area on the cab unit that is not present on the B unit, or the cabless booster unit, as you can see here. And then obviously there's no cab, and obviously the walkway is off center. Other than that, from here down, they're pretty much the same locomotive. The top is a little bit different, obviously different sets of fans. That's really about it. And then of course a driverless variant of the cab unit, so there's not a dude standing in there. Other than that, exact same locomotive. And then of course the DD35, which is a very noticeably different texturing job. I'd almost venture to say that these locomotives were made at two different times, if they didn't come in the same pack. But they do. They come in the same pack. They are so very noticeably different. Different shades of gray, different shade of yellow, very different shades on the trucks. But some of the same carryovers, like these awful hinge levers here. Latches, that's the word I'm looking for. Latches, awful. Chain actually is an upgrade. Credit where it's due. The chain here looks better than this awful mess. And the lettering and the numbering is crispier in some places. It's like the number here, very crispy. Lettering here, pretty low res. Numbers, those look good. Here, no. The trucks look pretty decent overall, considering how old it is. They're not phenomenal, but they're not horrible. Pretty okay detailed. See, it's got a beacon. It's got the little beacon inside on this one. How did that get missed over here, but not here? That's why I almost ventured to say that these were made at two separate times. Same air horn. But yeah, overall, almost venture to say the GB35 looks better. It is better detailed, I would say, but there are some things that just like latches, the low res texturing, it's just not something that has aged well at all. And in the boxcar, we've seen this in every single flippin' DTM pack. It's nothing new, nothing special. Back in the day, it wasn't bad. It's very noticeably low res next to anything. Back in the day, it wasn't horrible. It was a somewhat new stock, but today, we still get these with packs today, like the quote-unquote all new retro packs that still include this boxcar. It's old, it's dated. The TO, the trailer flats, again, pretty low detail, just a glorified rectangle. Really nothing going on. With multiple different loads, as well as an empty hopper, same hopper. We see them today in the all new retro packs. These are, you've seen this hopper 1,000 times. Nothing special, very low res, and same grain hopper, very low res, and then a caboose, a little more unique to Uncle Pete, Union Pacific. Is a UP caboose, so that is nice. An actual kind of road-specific item. But it does pretty much carry the same issues as the rest of the rolling stock. It is pretty low res. It's a lot of flat 2D texturing. The very noticeably low res body lines and rivets. Just nothing special. So these do have advanced brakes, yay. I don't like advanced brakes on diesels at all. Plays off better in steam locomotives. It just doesn't play off decent in diesels, in my opinion. Now that we've clicked on the locomotive, you can kind of see the exhaust. It's typical DTM Minecraft squares. They've always been ugly. Yay, hey, hooray. Inside the cab, pretty typical of this design. It's nothing wild. Very low res switches. You don't get most of them. The wipers, the cab, instrument lights, headlights. Should be selector switch, reverser, throttle, bells, and number 1 truck. We don't get horn, brake. Platform lights, beacon, class lights, number board, and get the engine stop. We don't get the engine start. Don't get the isolation. Don't get the unit. Back door. Ah. Sounds do change depending on what the door's at. That's cool. Ew, the windows look gross. And the windows are never closed. Sound does not change with the window opening, just the back door. M will open your mirrors. Not really mirrors, but I can kind of... I can foresee that. I don't care about being able to see rear most of the time, so doesn't really matter. Window sound, nothing wild. Typical DTM door sounds. Oh, pretty typical DTM cab. Most of this is copy paste from just about every single locomotive he's done with this cab setup. It's nothing special. Front door. Sound doesn't change with that door. Sound doesn't change with that window. So sound only changes with that rear door. It's entertaining. Very low res ceiling. Pretty typical. Emergency brake. And that's it. That's all we get. So we'll turn the headlights on. We'll turn all the lights on for shits and giggles. Woof. Cab lights hurt. So we got 52 right now. Turn our cab lights on. Drops down immediately to 40, 41. So you lose a good 10 FPS with the cab light. Platform. Beacon. Oh. The beacon flashes through. That's interesting. And you can see where. There's a nice square right there. The beacon flashes through the cab. That's not cool. Glass light, number light. And that should be it. So let's go outside. Windows and doors do translate outside, as well as the rear views. The beacon light itself does not look bad. Credit where it's due. It even clicks off with the shadows. And the beacon light doesn't look bad. The number boards, nah, not my favorite. There was an attempt made to make it look like they are light bulbs behind there, but they are very noticeably white. White light bulbs in this time don't really exist. It's yellow and orange. It looks so bad. That is a 2D low-res texture to represent the floor light, the footboard light. Okay. And our markers are very, 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 very white. The U key does change them, and it's barely noticeable. Like right now they're red. Now they're green. Now they're white. Like, you really can't notice the color change. And I'm pretty sure I turned the headlight on. Oh, turned the headlight on rear. Whoops. Woof! Get murdered, boy! That headlight is awful. Okay, let's turn that off. I can't look at that. Okay, the dim is more bearable. Still covered in these awful flares and this weird circle. Don't like it. So, headlights suck. I'd pull that up so that we can hop back here. So here's the cabless booster. Or not the cabless booster. This is the non-driver variant. I'm an idiot. Again, nothing special. Just no driver physically in the locomotive. And now we're inside the GB35. I know, wildly different, right? Feels like we just looked over this. It's because we did. Which makes sense. You know, I'm not bashing it. These are quite literally GP35 cabs put on the DD35s. So it should be relatively the same, but you know, nothing different. We already looked over all of this, so. And the exact same things function, including the door. Typical DTM horn, DTM bell. Yay. So let's go back to our desirable locomotive, set our tracks up so that we can take it out on the line for a second, see what they sound like under power. Boogity boogity, flip that switch. Flip that switch. That's good enough. I don't care what side we're driving on. Doesn't really matter. There aren't anything else playing around out here. So Select your switch. There it goes. So it doesn't click. Even if it's not switching, it doesn't make a switch sound. So dynamics, off, power, reverse gear. That switch actually doesn't sound bad. Again, same DTM bell, same DTM horn, nothing special. Turn that beacon off. It acts like we're lighted, and then you zoom in and the light's not there. Even though the cab light is not off. Killer brakes. Yeah, nice and deep. I can really see those squares. So, hearing it died down, you definitely hear like the changes in RPM. Like, I don't know what you want to call it. Different sound files. You hear them click through the different sound files. We're flying through this yard. You hear like that, yeah, click, yeah, click, yeah. It's not smooth. The RPM changes going up, however, are pretty decently smooth. They're not half bad. That red is awful. Horn. Most of these sounds are pretty much taken from the SD45s, so they're nothing that we haven't heard before. They're nothing special at all. Definitely dated. It's just not good. And here comes the scream. Screech! You guys know how much I hate that. Never liked that flange scream. Just screams all the way around the corner with No change whatsoever in pitch. No clean, clang, clickety clack. No, it's just scream. Rolling stop. Pretty typical DTM sounds. Now that we're on open rail, gonna wind it up. Pretty typical DTM physics. They're non-existent. I will say the engine sounds are not half bad. They're really not. I love that the two cab units, you can very clearly see the exhaust. You can't see it on the B unit, or the cabless booster. It's just entertaining. These things are loud. Very loud. Oh, that's interesting. The truck frames disappear. Looks like those old Athearn blue box models whenever you lose your side trucks. The engine sound itself is way, 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 way loud. Like you can't hear the horn over it. And the bell is on right now. You can't hear the bell at all. Engine sounds, I do think, are too loud overall. They don't sound half bad. It's just the physical, like the actual volume itself is way too high. Let's go ahead and start screwing with the brakes. DTM physics. I barely touched the brakes, and look at that. Zoom! Look how quick that thing stopped. That's nuts. So, overall, the pack's not horrible. It's not the best. It's not aged well. That's a good way to put it. It has not aged well at all. It desperately needs a graphical update. The texturing needs to be upped a lot, and the very obviously noticeable things missing need to be addressed. Will it ever happen? No. Like I said, this pack's been out since 2016. I don't think anything's really been done to it ever. So it's not the worst pack in the world. I bought this on sale. The pack is very much still 20 bucks. I don't think it's really worth 20 bucks. Like I said, it is old. It is noticeably old. It has not aged greatly. So I would say if you're picking this up, pick it up on sale. They usually go half off, 9 bucks, 10 bucks. For 10 bucks, it's not horrible. If you're a big UP guy, or you got Sherman Hill, Wasatch, all those other UP heavy hitting routes, these are not a horrible thing to have. Just know that they haven't aged well. So, and if you get this pack, there's also the freeware Southern Pacific skin for the cabless booster, which goes really nicely with routes like Donner Pass or something. So It is available on the Steam store. Do go check it out if it floats the boat. And yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I will see you guys next time.